It really begs the question, who is this development truly best suited for? Is it someone purely focused on transit who might actually give up their car? Or is it more for a hybrid user, someone who values having the MRT option for, say, commuting to work, but is prepared to put up with significant traffic friction for other aspects of daily life?
Right.
And for investors, this reality might narrow the pool of potential tenants willing to pay top dollar, potentially impacting rental demand and yields. Right. Let's explore that core appeal of an integrated development, this idea of the symbiotic ecosystem where living, working, and lifestyle stuff all blend together seamlessly. The Pavilion Lifestyle Mall is obviously positioned as the vibrant heart of this entire project. And the vision for the mall is grand. 1.1 million square feet, planned for around 380 retail outlets. The focus is on curated dining and contemporary retail. They've attracted some big names: Swarovski, Karl Lagerfeld, even a Tesla showroom. And they've heavily promoted this 500-meter gourmet boulevard, promising Michelin-starred restaurants. We know tenants like Din Tai Fung and Starbucks Reserve are confirmed, so it paints a picture of a really bustling, high-end destination.
Okay, but here's where the vision seems to collide with a very different reality, especially for you, the resident living right there. Despite that impressive blueprint, the actual on-the-ground experience since the mall opened in October 2023, well, it's led many critics and visitors to describe it as feeling empty, deserted. Some have even used the term dead mall, especially when compared to its bustling sister malls like Pavilion KL. What exactly seems to be missing? Why the disconnect?
This reported emptiness, it suggests maybe a fundamental misjudgment, or at least a mismatch currently, between the luxury retail focus and the actual day-to-day needs of the residents and maybe the office workers there. Critics consistently point out some key deficiencies. Firstly, there's no full-service supermarket. There's the food merchant Prelude, but it's described as smaller, premium, more of a grab-and-go concept, not really suitable for your main weekly grocery shop. Secondly, there's no affordable food court. That's a big miss for office workers looking for quick, budget-friendly lunch options, and also for families. And thirdly, a noticeable lack of family entertainment options. No cinema, no dedicated play zones for older kids. It leads back to that crucial question. If you find yourself having to get in your car and brave the traffic just for basic necessities or family activities, how truly integrated is the lifestyle? And how much of a premium should that convenience or lack thereof command?
Now, it's only fair to acknowledge the strong surrounding amenity network. That acts as a kind of safety net here. We're talking elite international schools nearby. Sampaka, Garden, Mont Kiara, Alice Smith are all within a reasonable, albeit potentially trafficky, distance. Top-tier healthcare is close too, with Pentai Hospital and KPJ Damansara Specialist, and world-class golf and recreation at TPC KL and the Royal Selangor Golf Club. So the broader neighborhood is very well equipped.
True. But putting this into context for investors, the mall's current underperformance isn't just a minor issue. It represents a potential fundamental flaw in the integrated living promise. It directly forces residents back into their cars, back into the traffic, eroding the very premium convenience they're paying a high price for. And those high maintenance fees, RN 0.67 per square foot, become much harder to justify if the promised doorstep lifestyle amenities aren't actually delivering. At this point, you could argue the investment's risk profile starts looking a bit more like commercial real estate, dependent on the mall's success, rather than a purely self-sufficient residential haven.
Okay, so for you, the discerning investor listening in, it's definitely time to rigorously test the allure of this project against some hard financial data. Let's talk pricing. What does the landscape look like?
Well, the units originally launched at an average price of around RM weighted 100 per square foot. That set a new benchmark for Damansara Heights at the time. Looking at current listings now, the asking prices range pretty widely from maybe RM 1,324 PSF on the lower end, all the way up to RM 3,182 PSF for perhaps prime units. The entry point, even for a basic one-bedroom unit, starts around the RM 1.2 million mark. This Pavilion Premium, as you might call it, actually surpasses its immediate neighbor, DC Residency, and it's even higher than some other established Pavilion-branded properties in very prime KL locations. So you're absolutely paying for the brand and that future promise.
And layered on top of that purchase price are those significant maintenance fees we mentioned, RM 0.67 per square foot. Just to put that in perspective, that's an extra RM 405 a month for a small 600 XQ unit, or a pretty hefty RM 1,878.78 a month for one of those large 2800 style FT Crown Residence units. That's not trivial.
No, it adds up. Now, when we look at potential rental yields, the general market norm in Damansara Heights is typically somewhere between 3% and 4.5%. The developer, naturally, would suggest superior yields are possible here. largely due to the corporate towers creating this supposed captive tenant pool of professionals working right there. However, the reality of the severe traffic congestion, combined with the currently underperforming mall, could very well suppress rental demand. It might force landlords to accept lower asking rents than initially hoped for, which would ultimately compress the actual yields achieved. That convenience factor, or the current lack of it, directly impacts what tenants are realistically willing to pay.
Right. And what about the outlook for capital appreciation? It seems like there's a fascinating tug of war between positive and negative drivers here. On the plus side, you've got Damansara Heights itself, which has a proven track record of property value resilience. There's a genuine scarcity of large plots of prime land like this. You have the undeniable power of the Pavilion brand name, and that future-proof MRT link is a major asset, especially once or if that permanent covered bridge is finally completed. These are strong fundamentals pushing value up.
Absolutely. But then you have significant headwinds pushing back. The overall Kuala Lumpur luxury condominium market continues to face a persistent issue of oversupply. That puts pressure on prices across the board. Then there are the project's own execution challenges we've discussed, the traffic nightmare, the struggling mall. These directly threaten its reputation and desirability. And crucially, that very high entry price point means that a significant chunk of potential future appreciation might already be priced in from the start. The real challenge here for investors, I think, is that this project was essentially priced for perfection. But the current on-the-ground reality deviates quite significantly from that perfect picture. This creates a tangible value gap, especially for early investors. It could potentially cap short-term appreciation and even introduces the risk of price stagnation or maybe even a correction if things don't improve. Its future success, and therefore your potential return, seems to hinge almost entirely on the developer's ability to successfully turn around the mall's performance and effectively mitigate those crippling traffic issues.
So bringing it all together, what's the practical takeaway from this deep dive for you? Pavilion Damansara Heights is, without a doubt, a project with immense potential, backed by very serious players, no question there. But its ambitious cosmopolis vision is currently being undermined by some significant, very real, on-the-ground challenges.
Yeah, I think for an investor, this project seems most suitable for someone with a long-term perspective. You need to be patient, well-capitalized, and have a pretty high tolerance for risk. You also need a strong belief, almost faith, in the Pavilion brand and its ability to eventually overcome these current teething problems. You'd be targeting capital appreciation likely over a 10-plus year horizon. It's really not a play for those seeking quick flips or immediate high rental yields right now.
And for the resident, who's the ideal fit to actually live here? It seems likely to be a high-income professional or maybe an individual who either works right there on site, perhaps in one of those corporate towers, or someone who relies heavily, almost exclusively on the MRT for their daily commute. They'd likely value the prestige, the address, that hotel-like living experience with the concierge services, and they'd have to be entirely willing to forego any private outdoor space. It seems less suitable for, say, families who need frequent car journeys for school runs or for people who really prioritize having a vibrant, self-sufficient community with everyday necessities like a proper supermarket right on their doorstep.
Exactly. Putting it all into context, the project definitely possesses the hard assets you'd expect from a world-class development. Impeccable location, powerful branding, high-quality construction, superb transit potential. But its soft assets, the actual livability, the vibrancy, the day-to-day operational smoothness, those seem to be currently falling short of the premium price tag it commands. Its future success, its ability to deliver on that premium valuation, it all seems to hinge entirely on the developer's capability to revitalize that mall, to resolve the infrastructure bottlenecks causing the traffic chaos, and to finally deliver on that promised seamless, covered MRT link. Can the reality actually catch up to the promise? That really remains the fundamental question mark hanging over the project right now.
So, for you, the learner on this deep dive, let's leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. In a world where we're seeing increasing urban density, how much of a premium are you personally truly willing to pay for the idea of integrated living if the integration itself, in practice, introduces significant daily frustrations and requires you to compromise on basic convenience? What stands out to you as the biggest factor in that whole equation?